Hello and welcome to another fun-filled edition of Adam's Music Box, where today I want to talk about one of the greatest guitar players ever and one of my very favorites, and this is Gary Moore. Now, Gary Moore is 10 times more virtuosic and 10 times more versatile than a lot of the people that are mentioned as among the great guitarists ever, but he really is one of the finest of all time, and he played in so many different genres, one of which was jazz fusion. Now, the band Colosseum 2 was formed in 1975 by John Heisman, who was in the original sort of rocky, fusiony Colosseum. Don Airey, wonderful, versatile keyboard player, later to be with Ozzy Osbourne and then Deep Purple. And John Moe, a great session and pit orchestra bass player, who was really ahead of his time with a lot of the fretless stuff that he did. Now, the band formed in the mid 70s and had only three albums, two of which were really, really good. The ones that I would recommend are Electric Savage from 1977 and War Dance from later in that year. Here you can see a band that's so tight, absolutely on fire. And Gary Moore is just, he's blazing. The guitar work on those albums, out of this world. And the funny thing is, jazz fusion wasn't even the sort of native genre of Gary Moore. He could play it better than most people who set out to play in that style. But it wasn't even what he considered his wheelhouse. But definitely check out those albums. Now, he first got acquainted with Phil Lynott and the Thin Lizzy guys in '74, and he would be in and out of that band across various albums and live appearances. But his first solo album is very much what I would call sort of traditional jazz fusion meets Thin Lizzy style rock and roll, because Phil Lynott plays bass and he does a lot of the vocal work. You've also got a lot of the guys from Colosseum. Don Airey is there, John Moe is there, some great drumming by both Brian Downey and the wonderful, impeccable, one of the best of all time, Simon Phillips. And this album is called Back on the Streets from 1978. And again, like I say, it's like the fusion music of Colosseum 2 meets Thin Lizzy. But what is that? I guess that's a good way to describe Gary Moore's approach to jazz fusion. Wonderful album, and all of this stuff that I'm mentioning is on your Spotify's and your titles and all of the rest of that. So all of this is invariably check outable. Now, his solo albums from the 80s were generally in the hard rock, melodic rock genre, but with plenty of virtuosity. Corridors of Power from 82, amazing. Victims of the Future from 84, equally amazing, as was Run for Cover from 1985. He did some work with Greg Lake post DLP in the early 80s, again in this sort of melodic rock, prog rock sort of style. But the genre that really was what Gary Moore's passion was the blues. And it was in the early 90s when he sort of made the decision to focus almost exclusively on the blues and blues rock. And you can see that even in his hard rock, his melodic rock, and jazz fusion stuff, there was always this essential, very emotionally pure, but emotionally masculine at the same time approach to the blues. It's melodic but ballsy. It's sophisticated yet very pure. Just a wonderful, wonderful musician who frankly died too soon, because it was on February the 6th, 2011, and I remember it like yesterday that he was found dead in Spain at the age of only 58. Time really flies, but definitely check out Colosseum 2, all of his solo work. Check out the stuff that he did as a member of Thin Lizzy. You will love it all. Gary Moore, simply one of the best of all times. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Take care.